Welcome. You have joined the Unstuck audio podcast. Today's topic of discussion is program your mind like this for 3 days, mental well-being tips. I'm challenging myself, along with my two guests, Brain and Mark, to program our minds for 3 whole days using these mental well-being tips, and let's see how it changes our outlook on life. When it comes to mental well-being, I think we all know by now that our minds are incredibly powerful tools that can either work for us or against us. The concept of programming your mind might sound a little out there, but trust me, it's a game changer. By programming your mind, I mean making a conscious effort to focus on the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs that serve you, and letting go of the ones that don't. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this audiobook. Over the next 3 days, I'll be sharing with you some practical mental well-being tips that you can start using right away to improve your mental health. So, whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or just feeling stuck in a rut, I want you to know that you're not alone, and there is hope. So, what can you expect from this podcast today? Well, we'll be covering some of the most common challenges people face when it comes to mental health, and then we'll dive into some super practical tips that you can start using right away to improve your mental well-being. But first, Mark, can you talk about the significance of the 3-day time frame?
Sure, I would like to emphasize the significance of the number 3 in personal transformation, referring to a specific 3-day process for rewiring the mind. While acknowledges that 3 days is an arbitrary time frame, he highlights its symbolic connection to the process of change. Now, having to break the cycle, 3 days is long enough to create disruption, but short enough to maintain intense focus. This period allows individuals to break free from deeply ingrained thought patterns that have been running on autopilot for years. Now, let me give you the processes. Overcoming resistance. The first day is the hardest as the mind resists new patterns. By day 2, resistance weakens, and by day 3, individuals begin to embody the change. This gradual process allows for a smoother transition and fosters commitment to the new mindset. Creating momentum. The transformative shift experienced during these 3 days break through momentum. This momentum, built through consistent effort over 3 days, empowers individuals to overcome mental barriers and propel themselves toward their goals. Universal pattern. I would suggest that 3 days is not simply a random number, but rather a pattern woven into the fabric of transformation itself. The analogy of steel needing a specific temperature for reshaping, suggesting the mind also needs a specific time frame to initiate change. In essence, the 3-day period serves as a symbolic catalyst for personal transformation, providing the necessary time and focus to disrupt old patterns, overcome resistance, and build momentum towards a new reality. Mental health is something that we should all be taking very seriously. It's estimated that 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health issue each year, and that number is only growing. But despite how common it is, there's still a huge stigma surrounding mental health, and that's something we need to change. When we're struggling with our mental health, it can be incredibly isolating. We often feel like we're the only ones going through it, and that nobody else can possibly understand what we're going through. But the truth is, we're all in this together. We all have our own struggles, and we all have our own unique experiences. One of the biggest challenges people face when it comes to mental health is simply not knowing where to start. We know we need to make a change, but we don't know how, or we're too scared to take that first step. And that's totally understandable. Making changes to our mental health can be incredibly daunting, especially when we're feeling stuck or hopeless.
Another challenge is the fear of being judged or labeled. We're scared that if we open up about our struggles, people will think we're weak or flawed. But the truth is, mental health affects everyone, regardless of age, gender, or background. It's not something to be ashamed of, and it's definitely not something to hide. And then there's the fear of being a burden. We don't want to be a burden to our loved ones, or to be a drain on their time and energy. But the truth is, our loved ones care about us, and they want to help. They want to support us, and they want to see us thrive. When we're struggling with our mental health, it's easy to feel like we're alone, like nobody else can possibly understand what we're going through. But the truth is, We're all in this together. We're all struggling, we're all fighting, and we're all trying to make it through each day.
The good news is that there is hope. There are so many amazing resources out there, from therapy to support groups to self-care practices. And that's exactly what we're going to be focusing on in this episode of Unstuck, the practical mental well-being tips that you can start using right away. One of the most powerful things we can do for our mental health is to start small. We don't need to make huge changes overnight. We can start with tiny, tiny steps and gradually build up to bigger changes. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing over the next 3 days. Over the next 3 days, we're going to be focusing on 3 key areas: mindfulness, self-compassion, and gratitude. These 3 areas are so important for our mental well-being, and they're all incredibly easy to incorporate into our daily lives. First, let's talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is all about being present in the moment, without judgment. It's about paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and emotions without getting caught up in them. And it's incredibly powerful for reducing stress and anxiety. One of the simplest ways to practice mindfulness is to focus on our breath. We can do this anywhere, at any time, whether we're sitting on the bus, waiting in line, or lying in bed. All we need to do is focus on our breath. Feel the sensation of the air moving in and out of our body, and let go of any thoughts or distractions. Another way to practice mindfulness is to focus on our senses. We can do this by paying attention to the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and textures around us. We can notice the way the light falls on our skin, the sound of birds singing outside, or the smell of freshly brewed coffee.
Self-compassion is another crucial area for our mental well-being. So often we're incredibly hard on ourselves, criticizing ourselves for our mistakes, our flaws, and our shortcomings. But the truth is, we're doing the best we can, and that's something to be proud of. We need to start treating ourselves with kindness, understanding, and compassion. One of the easiest ways to practice self-compassion is to speak to ourselves in a kinder way. Instead of beating ourselves up over our mistakes, we can try speaking to ourselves in a gentle, loving way. We can say things like, "You're doing your best, and that's all that matters," or "You're strong, capable, and resilient."
Gratitude is another key area for our mental well-being. When we focus on the things we're grateful for, we start to shift our attention away from what's lacking and towards what we already have. This can have a huge impact on our mental health, helping us to feel more positive, more hopeful, and more fulfilled. One of the easiest ways to practice gratitude is to keep a gratitude journal. This can be as simple as writing down 3 things we're grateful for each day before bed. It could be something as small as a good cup of coffee, a beautiful sunset, or a supportive friend. Another way to practice gratitude is to share our gratitude with others. We can do this by writing a thank you note, giving someone a compliment, or simply telling someone how much we appreciate them.
I want to share with you a personal story that really drives home the power of these mental programming techniques. A few years ago, I was going through a really tough time. I was struggling with anxiety, depression, and feelings of hopelessness. But I knew I needed to make a change, so I started practicing mindfulness, self-compassion, and gratitude. At first, it was tough. I felt like I was fighting an uphill battle and that nothing was working. But I persisted. I kept showing up day after day, and slowly but surely, things started to shift. I started to feel more hopeful, more positive, and more in control. And that's exactly what I want for you. I want you to know that you're not alone and that there is hope. I want you to know that these mental programming techniques really do work and that they can change your life. Before we recap on our discussion today, I'm going to have Jessica come in and go over some of the frequently asked questions about this topic.
Hello, everyone. As discussed, I am Jessica and will give the FAQ for this topic. 1. Why are the words we speak to ourselves so important? The words we use, especially when directed towards ourselves, have an immense impact on shaping our reality. Our minds believe and accept what we repeatedly tell ourselves, whether positive or negative. These words act as instructions to our nervous systems and serve as blueprints for our biology, ultimately shaping our thoughts, beliefs, actions, and ultimately, our destiny. 2. How does our mind process and respond to the words we speak? Our minds function like sophisticated computers, constantly processing information and using words as a filter to determine what to focus on. This supercomputer between our ears accepts the words we repeatedly tell ourselves as commands, programming our subconscious minds and influencing our perceptions and behaviors. Whether we speak words of empowerment or limitation, our minds create neural pathways and build our realities accordingly. 3. What is the significance of the 3-day transformation process? The 3-day transformation acts as a symbolic catalyst for personal change. It provides the necessary time and focus to disrupt old, negative thought patterns and establish new, empowering ones. 3 days is long enough to create disruption in our habitual thinking, but short enough to maintain the intense focus needed to create new neural pathways for success. 4. How does the concept of neuroplasticity relate to self-talk? Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to form new neural connections throughout life. This means our brains are malleable and adaptable. By consistently using positive self-talk, we can literally rewire our brains to support success and overcome limiting beliefs. Every time we speak to ourselves in a new, empowering way, we are reshaping the physical structure of our brains. 5. What are the key elements of the morning protocol for self-transformation? The morning protocol involves setting a positive frequency for the day by speaking words of power and intention. Key elements include starting the day with affirmations of potential and purpose. Declare statements that affirm your inherent worth and ability to achieve your goals. Declaring specific and expansive intentions for the day. Clearly define what you want to accomplish and the kind of energy you want to embody. Grounding oneself in power and connection to possibilities. Visualize yourself connected to a source of limitless potential and affirm your ability to tap into that power. 6. How can we effectively replace negative self-talk with positive affirmations? Simply ignoring or suppressing negative thoughts is ineffective, as they remain active in the subconscious mind. Instead, we need to consciously replace them with positive affirmations. When the old pattern says, "I can't," we don't argue with it. We simply redirect our mental energy to a new path that says, "I am in the process of becoming capable." This redirection creates new, positive neural pathways that gradually weaken the old, negative ones. 7. What is the purpose of the evening reflection in the self-transformation process? The evening reflection provides an opportunity to review the day's self-talk, reinforce positive thoughts, and reframe challenges as opportunities for growth. It's a time to acknowledge progress, identify areas where we might have slipped back into negative self-talk, and replace those thoughts with empowering affirmations. This practice seals the day's progress and sets the stage for success the next day. 8. How can we make this 3-day transformation permanent and create lasting change? Transformation becomes permanent through consistent effort and commitment to speaking to ourselves with power and purpose. Daily practice of the morning and evening protocols, coupled with mindful self-talk throughout the day, create lasting change in our minds and, consequently, our lives. It's a continuous process of awareness, redirection, and reinforcement. We must actively monitor our self-talk, replace negative patterns with empowering language, and celebrate our progress as we create a new reality aligned with our goals and aspirations.
Thank you, Jessica, for the FAQ. Now, let's recap the key tips we've shared so far. Over the next 3 days, we're going to focus on mindfulness, self-compassion, and gratitude. We're going to start small, with tiny, tiny steps, and gradually build up to bigger changes. Remember, the key is to be consistent and to be kind to yourself. Don't try to make huge changes overnight, because that's just not sustainable. Instead, focus on making small, incremental changes that you can stick to in the long term. And finally, I want to leave you with a challenge. I want you to share with me in the comments below how you're going to start programming your mind for better mental well-being. Are you going to start a gratitude journal or try practicing mindfulness each day? Whatever it is, I want to hear about it. Thanks so much for joining us, and I'll see you in the next episode of Unstuck, which will be about neuroplasticity as related to self-talk. Please consider liking and subscribing. This will help us get more information out related to mental health issues.